and welcome to Sports Shorts from Women's Rights Network, which is our sporting podcast. And welcome to Jeannie and Maria, who are joining us this week. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
We have a lot to discuss. I thought January would be a quiet month for sport, but we kicked off the new year with a couple of really quite big stories. The first one I'd like to mention is that England Hockey have announced their new competition policy, which will be to exclude males from the female category, which is fantastic news because hockey is probably one of the most dangerous sports to have males on the pitch with females. So really, really good news. And we've heard a lot from people playing hockey, women playing hockey, who have turned up and found males on the opposite side or even on their own team and not been very happy about it, but not being able to speak out. So good news for them. Slight downer on that one, though, was that the policy included a section on children who are trans and under 12s who are trans, which is in contravention of the advice in the CAS report, which describes this as social transition, allowing children to play on the opposite sex team if they identify as the opposite sex. So we're following that up as WRN. We did do a tweet last weekend listing the 15 or so sports that have policies for so-called trans children and really alerting people to this. And we will follow it up with the sports concerned. I mean, everything from gymnastics, netball, basketball, korfball, all these sports should not be offering opposite sex sports places to children. They should play in the category that they're supposed to, i.e., the category of their own sex. So that's the England hockey thing. And then the other huge story has been cricket. And Maria, you were going to talk to us a bit about the cricket, which has made headlines around the world, actually, hasn't it?
So this involves the Champions Trophy match that's coming up between, well, specifically for England, they're playing Afghanistan on the 26th of February as part of this competition. And there's been a huge outcry across the globe to the ICC around taking action because of obviously the Taliban's violations of women's rights. Even our own prime minister has commented on this, that how basically how awful it is, and that really that you should be boycotted. I think that's the position of most sensible people. It will be by boycotting these games, of course, it will bring a lot of attention to the plight of the women's team. But yeah, I think that's probably the crux of the story.
Yeah.
In terms of our involvement, we've been quite vocal for a while now about this in terms of the WRN and the publicity we try to draw and the attention we try to draw to it.
Yeah. I mean, we did write a letter to the English Cricket Board asking if they would consider boycotting the match. And we have written also to the ICC asking them to consider their inclusion of the Afghanistan men's team in the ICC tournaments
Mm.
when they don't offer um, sport for women at all. And the Afghanistan women's cricket team is now in exile in Australia.
Mm.
So, the ICC rules state that the country has to offer a women's pathway
Mm. Mm.
to international cricket. Well, Afghanistan doesn't even offer any sport for any woman, or dancing or swim or singing or being allowed to be free or work or anything. So I really don't see why we're supporting this regime on the sports pitch,
Mm.
personally.
Mm. I mean, Amnesty International even said that in fact this team has had to flee for their own safety. It's just extremely worrying that the cricketers don't feel safe. They also feel very let down, and as does the international cricketing community. It's the situation's just terrible, really.
Yeah. I mean, there was some debate about whether sporting boycotts work. And they
Mm,
may not necessarily work, but they do highlight these awful
mm,
situations. And, we have had boycotts before. We
yeah.
boycotted, there was a worldwide boycott of South Africa, and any country that broke the boycott was really castigated. And
Mm,
it wasn't a good time for South
mm,
Africa.
mm,
So it's all part of the pressure. It's not sports boycotts aren't going to change
mm.
much, but they are a signal, a symbol of our disapproval. And that's the mildest word I can probably use.
I mean, they really do raise awareness, don't they, boycotts?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, even just the discussion of a
mm,
possible boycott has
mm,
been headline news everywhere. And
mm,
our sports minister Lisa Nandy was
mm,
on the BBC a week ago saying she didn't think a sports boycott would work. Well, Great Britain was one of the ones that helped to achieve a boycott back in the South African apartheid era. So
mm,
I really think possibly Lisa Nandy needed to relook at what her thoughts on that. Relook
mm,
at her thoughts.
mm. And one thing I will highlight, I'm mindful that there has been a previous one regarding this. This was actually in January 2023, 2 years ago, where Australia withdrew from a men's one-day series against Afghanistan, citing that the Taliban's decision to impose further restriction on women's rights and education, and that was their reason for doing it. And of course, these things, uh, you know, they'd cause discussion. So
Yeah.
it has happened. This won't be the first time if it does go ahead, if any form of boycotting does go ahead.
And the ECB have said that they won't play Afghanistan on one-to-one tournaments.
Yeah.
But this is slightly different. It's a massive tournament with loads of countries. So
Yeah.
one way or another, something will happen, and we'll keep raising awareness of it. So,
Mm,
yeah, some interesting stories to kick off the year. We're only in the third week of January recording this, and we've already had two huge stories.
mm.
Um, so another story that you two will know loads about because you're both runners was the announcement by Sophie Power of She Races that she's going to start an all-women series of trail races this year, and pretty exciting. Um, what do we feel about women-only races? I mean, is it a backward step? Is it progress? What tell us your thoughts, Jeannie, because you've been looking up on this.
Definitely not a backward step. No, it's amazing. I think it's an absolutely brilliant idea. I had a look at her website and I listened to a podcast where she talked about what she was doing. And just looking at her website, she's clearly really thought
Mm,
deeply about what it means to have women-only races, why we need them. She did a survey, so I think hundreds of women responded to this survey about what stops them from running, what problems they've had taking part in races, and you
So
can
what
just
what
tell.
sort of things were women telling her?
So things like cut-off times being in. So her world is ultra running, which is very long distance races, which often have cut-off times for various reasons, and they're often those cut-off times come from the sort of average times that men run rather than
mm,
times women run. Women obviously do run slower,
mm.
and that's really off-putting to women, worrying about whether they might achieve cut-off times. Um, Other things, uh, sorry, I'm
Well, I
just
mean, her specifically for these new races that she's announced, she's not going to have cut-off times.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a real game changer. And in fact, there are other races that don't have cut-off times, but yes, specifically for this, she's also called out, the fact that there will be proper, women-only changing facilities, female-only toilets with free sanitary products. Again, she's called out previously where this hasn't been the case on some of these ultra races. and she will be very committed to that. And also things like breastfeeding, or expressing, it facilitated at support points as well. So that's something else. I mean, I think she's run, hasn't she, while she's been, feeding her baby, not while she's been feeding her baby, but during
Well,
that
Yeah.
she had to
during that
really,
period of
because
time.
yeah, that was the case where she'd entered the Ultra TMB and
Mm,
had to defer for pregnancy, but they wouldn't let her defer another year
yeah.
Unfortunately.
because they said no, pregnancy was your choice. And so
Mm,
she had to run it with her baby being 3 months old. And there was that picture of her breast
mm,
pumping and feeding at this
mm,
stage. It was quite a great picture, actually, because she's sitting there pumping away on one breast, feeding the baby on the other, and next to her is this bloke, exhausted,
Yeah.
and classic, really. What are the
Was
other
that
things?
Sophie Power? Was that Sophie Power that
Yes,
did
it
that?
was. Yes.
yeah,
Was there
sorry.
another ultra runner who did that?
Oh,
I
there
think there
might
was
have
another
been.
one as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
getting back to these women-only trail races, I mean,
Mhm.
because you've both run loads of races, haven't you? Women only and mixed. I mean, what is the atmosphere like in a mixed race? Say, I don't know, a sort of 10K or a 5K. What's special about would be special about having a women only race?
Well, I think when you run a mixed race, the men and the women in that race have a very different experience. Obviously, the first finishers, the people who cross the line first or break tape, are always going to be men. Sometimes there's a bit of an effort to have a tape for women, but it's mostly impossible because you've got men crossing the line just before and at the same time as the first woman to cross the line. So it's a very different experience. On the start line, you can't be at the front because the fastest men are going to be faster than you. So you're stuck in a sort of crowd with people's elbows in your face if you're a small woman like I am. Um, so yeah, it's not the same experience, and where the fastest women are running alongside slightly slower men. Um,
Mm.
and
I think the completing, the finishing, you reminded me, Jeannie, that it's very different if you're at the back of the pack, like I often am, where again, being a very small woman, often there'll be no t-shirt size that's appropriate for me.
yeah,
And the t-shirts generally are unisex, which means even the smallest is pretty big for, I think, for probably you and I. And that again it just creates that feeling of, well, you've come last, or you've come at the end, therefore you're not worthy of an appropriate finisher's t-shirt. So there's things like that that compound the problem, really.
Mm. Mm.
totally. And one thing I noticed looking at Sophie's website is the photos she's got on there. Like one of the first ones I noticed was a start line photo, and it was a start line photo with all women on it. And yeah, I think it's the first time I've seen that, and it really took me aback seeing, a start line with women, just women on it. Usually it's, a row of men, which,
Mm,
I like to see as well. But it was just really special, like having that full race experience where you can start, where you need to start, where you are during the race.
mm,
If you're yeah, it doesn't matter if you're 50th, 10th, or first. When you're running amongst men, you just have no idea of where you are. You could be first woman and you don't know until you check the results,
mm,
unless some kind marshal is maybe shouting from the sidelines, first woman, which does happen. But
mm,
yeah, if you were a man coming first or fifth, you would know straight away, and
Mm.
you can sometimes spot in the distance the person you're trying to catch up with or overtake. But
mm,
it's not so easy as a woman because usually there are just a lot more men around you.
Yeah.
mm,
The other
mm,
thing is some of the races now are making a bit more effort to have equal photography for men and women. And we were talking earlier, and you were saying that often races do the lovely photos of the young fit men, and then the photos of the women are the ones that have entered maybe sort of just to take part. You don't have this
Yeah,
equal.
Yeah, sometimes it can send a
photography.
message that, yeah, the women are doing it just for fun and the men are the ones, really racing. When I
Yeah.
Mm,
think you should show both sides. There are slower men as well who take
mm,
part for other reasons. Um, yeah, so showing all angles for both sexes is what's needed, I
mm.
think.
Yeah. No, brilliant.
I
So,
think,
I mean, you two both took up running sort of later. You weren't sporty in your youth. So why would these women, why would it make a difference to you to have these races? Would it have encouraged you to take up running earlier, do you think? Or, tell me a bit about that.
I think for me, without a doubt, I'm absolutely certain, and I probably wouldn't have said that at the time, 20 years ago. I wouldn't have said that, but there are just these subtle messages that you get that is not for me. That is not, it's not where I belong. The people who do that are not people like me. It just, when I did start running in my 40s, it took me a couple of years of running on my own before I had the confidence to take part in an event. And I really remember being there and being so nervous, thinking, these people all look much fitter than me. They all look much faster than me. I'm gonna, and I did absolutely fine. I did quite well, and it shouldn't have been a worry. But I think sometimes women, not all women, but some women do have a tendency to sort of have that negative thinking and worry a lot rather than just be a sort of a very confident, have a go
mm,
kind of attitude. Um, so yeah, anything we can do so that women know what to expect,
mm,
that they belong there, and that it's something that's open to them.
mm,
It, a huge
It is,
positive. I've got
it
I've
is.
got daughters as well, and I see it in them as well. I see them
Mm.
sort of shy away from things, especially when they've sort of reached their teenage years. Um, more
It
and
is
more,
that
their
classic.
world to get smaller. Yeah,
It's that classic thing of, say, I mean, we see it in when women apply for a job, and we have to be 100% tick all the boxes on the job description before we'll even apply. Whereas a man will just think, oh yeah, fancy that, and oh yeah, I can do that and that, or don't
yeah,
worry about everything else, and we'll apply anyway. So we have this thing of you have to be 100% perfect to go for
yeah.
anything. And I think it applies to sport as well as job hunting and other things. Yeah, I don't know what it is about the female psyche because I've been guilty of that as well,
Yeah, me
thinking
too. And even
things.
though we're aware of it, you can be completely aware of it. It's a really hard thing to change.
Mm,
One of the things that Sophie mentioned in an interview, and it is here on our website, is that women just like to know what to expect and to have everything explained. And I think it's part of that, isn't it? And
mm,
that gives you knowing exactly what to expect, gives you that confidence that yes,
mm.
mm,
I can I can do that. I can fit in with that. Nothing's going to take me by surprise. There's not going to be anything that I have to face that I can't do.
mm.
So yeah, I think that came up in her survey a lot.
I
Mm.
think something else she's doing with these races, which I think is really interesting, and I'll be interested to know what you think about this, Jeannie, is she's having female marshals. Now,
Right,
I don't know about you, but I respond very differently to different encouragement on a race.
yeah,
And let's face it, we've had all sorts of
yeah,
encouragement
yeah,
in quotes, haven't we? And I think it's really telling that she's called that out quite specifically, that the marshals are going to be female. And I think,
yeah,
yeah, I think we have a different way of encouraging, don't we? Let's put
yeah,
it.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah. Well, it sounds a really exciting year to see women only racing taking off and anything that can get women who wouldn't enter a mixed race, anything that can get them out there and enjoying that amazing experience of having a go. Obviously, you're not going to win necessarily. Someone's got to win, but there are more people not winning, but enjoying that being out there and on those trails and having that experience sounds really, really exciting. Are you two going to enter any of these women only trail runs or?
You know what? I think I will. See, I've never run an ultra, so the most I've done is a marathon. And I was thinking about sort of trying to do. I think Maria's more of an ultra runner. But yeah, so it might be my first, longer than a
First
marathon,
ultra.
and thinking
What
about
a
a 50K.
wonderful one to start with. Yeah,
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah. I'm
How
quite
about you,
excited about
Maria?
the
Are
idea.
you going to have a
I've
pop?
definitely registered my interest.
Well, don't forget to wear your WRN t-shirts when you go, and
Indeed.
and good luck. No, thank you. That's really great. We'll put up some details of the new women-only trail races probably up on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, but they'll definitely be in the show notes. So moving on to another women's issue actually. A little story that caught our eye this week was Shauna Coxey, who is a GB climber, and she's also a young mum. And she posted a piece on Instagram about her relationship with Adidas, who have sponsored her since she was a teenager. And she carried on they extended the contract once she became a mother. Now, bearing in mind that Shauna has won 33 World Cup medals in climbing. She's an Olympian. She's Shauna Coxey MBE. She's an absolutely amazing climber. And suddenly Adidas decided they weren't going to sponsor her anymore, even though
Wow.
she is trying to combine motherhood and continuing her climbing career.
Yeah. Wow. Did you
What
say
what's your take on
33?
that, you two?
Yeah. How good do you have to be? How successful do you have to be in your sport just to get the support of a sponsor?
Do you
Yeah.
think
Um,
they would not have dumped a male whose partner had had a baby? The
Absolutely not.
sponsorship would have continued. I
Yeah.
100% guarantee that it would have been different if Shauna had been male and had a baby. So um, I actually think Adidas are really missing a trick here because there's been so much publicity about mothers achieving elite sport. You
Mm.
know, we at Paris 2024, we saw Helen Glover, who's got three children, and came back to row after having a little boy and then twins. So women can do it. And wouldn't it be great if Adidas had supported their athlete and
Mm.
helped her through, and so that she could have continued being a role model for other women? I just think that whoever's in the marketing department at Adidas needs to have another look at that.
Mm.
Yeah.
And Shauna, well done. I mean, absolutely amazing achievements on
Mm.
the sporting climbing wall and having babies. So well done.
Yes.
Great thing. Anyway, and the other thing is she's got 454,000 followers on Instagram. So that's 454,000 followers that she has now told that Adidas have dumped her. So yeah, I'm not sure the publicity has quite worked out there. But,
No.
Yeah.
so that's a bit of a downer, really. But anyway, another downer. We're coming to the end of the podcast. We're back to our regular features of In the Sin Bin and our Star of the Week. So, Maria, do you want to tell us who is in the sin bin?
Well, I mean, it didn't even take a vote for this. It's quite clearly the International Cricket Council, the ICC. Yeah, for their cowardly position. I think that's all I'll say.
Yeah, I agree with that. In the sin bin with the International Cricket Council for not having the guts
Mm.
to sort out their
Sure. Mm.
tournament and not having the guts to ban Afghanistan men's team.
Mm.
Or do a bit more for the Afghanistan women's team would be nice.
Exactly.
Okay, still on cricket for our star of the week. I'm going to give a shout out to Tonya Antoniazzi, who is a Labour MP down here in Wales, which is where I am. And she organised at very short notice a letter to the English Cricket Board asking them to consider boycotting the cricket match against Afghanistan. Now, I'm sorry we've gone on a bit about cricket, but they really are in the sin bin for lots of reasons. Partly not just for continuing to play in this tournament, but actually also their two-tier policy of protecting female elite cricketers from having males on the cricket pitch, but throwing every other woman who doesn't play elite cricket to the wolves. And cricket has masses of trans-identifying males in the sport, and women at lower levels of the game and girls are having a hard time. So the ECB came out with a very nice statement this week saying, you know, they want to do more to highlight the Afghanistan women's plight. However, that doesn't erase what they're doing to lower level cricketers in the UK. So Tonya Antoniazzi, she wrote this amazing letter and got over 160 MPs and House of Lords to sign it, and it sent a clear message. She was contacted by the South African sports minister, who said he agreed with her. She was interviewed for TV stations all over the world. So for that alone, she is our star of the week. So thank you, Tonya, for standing up for women. Right, I think we've come to the end. I just want to give a big shout out to our producers of this podcast, which you can see on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, because after we've pressed the stop recording button, they go away and do masses of work. So thank you. I'd just like to say that if you want to get in touch, we're on sports@womensrights.network if you want to email us. We're also on social media on X, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So get in touch with us via one of those channels if you wish. And of course, we're here on YouTube. So put a comment in the comments box, and do like us because it does help with our ratings. So thank you very much. Our first Sports Shorts podcast of the year. Thank you, Jeannie. Lovely to hear from you.
Thanks.
Goodbye. And thank you, Maria. And good luck with your running, and looking forward to hearing stories from the running track. Okay,
Bye.
goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.